Let's Get To presents
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go, go, Astros! Here come the Astros, burning with desire. Here come the Astros, breathing orange fire. Here come the Astros, with winning on their mind. Here come the Astros, #1 every time. Go, go, Astros! We want Houston! We want Houston!
Alvarez hits a high drive, center field. Veer leans back. This game is turned upside down.
And the pitch is lifted to right by Castellanos. Long run for Tucker over toward the line and foul territory. Makes the catch, and the Houston Astros do it again. 2022 World Series champions.
And now, Go Astros. Astros baseball from three guys who've been there since Art Howe had hair.
Here come the Astros, breathing orange fire. Here come the Astros.
Good morning, Astros fans. It is Tuesday, not Monday. We are on a slightly different schedule this week, but so are the Astros because they had the off day yesterday. I'm here with James Christopher. Andy Tom Chesson is out today with Appalachian wireless discomfort, which you can interpret whether that means he's too much into the moonshine or too much into a place with suspect technology. But
probably yes, both of those.
You know, we are open to either interpretation. In fact, both could quite work. So we can just go with that. Jim, you're coming to us from Rhode Island. It's an all East Coast edition of Go Astros, the place where you expect people to have the best analysis of the Astros in the Atlantic Seaboard.
I did feel smarter when I got to Newport. I would like to point out that my hotel today is much less nice than it was last time.
Yeah. And we went to Newport last year for my wife and I on our vacation. And the first thing I saw when I got to downtown Newport was a Jeremy Pena jersey. So I developed a very favorable impression of the people of Rhode Island. So
it's very pretty down here too, or up here, over here.
And Newport's a good vacation spot. So we're trying to talk my parents into that for different reasons. But the Astros, of course, had the All-Star break for the first 4 games and then played the Angels. James, what did your cardiologist tell you about the Angels series?
So,
or your liquor store clerk?
No, it's funny because we were talking about in our pre-show meeting how I got so stressed out that I was packing for this week-long trip. So I'm an old man now, and I have to put my little medicine in my little daily thing. And I was literally sorting through my antidepressants when Bregman's home run went over the wall. And I just thought to myself, do I just need to take like a handful of these things just to get through? Look, there's going to be a lot of, and we saw it, Brian, a lot of really erratic reaction to game with this team. The meltdown on Saturday was, it was almost so bad that I don't know how concerning it should be. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you'll dive into that, but game to game, it can get real easy to get caught up. And in fact, is they won a road series. They got off the deck a little bit on the Sunday game. I take that as a positive. The offense scored 27 runs over 3 games. Yeah. And I think we all believe in the pitching. So to me, I take winning a road series against still a good Angels team as a win. And so therefore that's how I'm taking that moving forward.
Yeah, from a big picture standpoint, had we said before the Astros will win 2 or 3 against the Angels, you go, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll take that. Sweep would be nice, but hey, 2 or 3, you do that all the time, you're gonna advance into the playoffs. But obviously the nature of how it happened. I'm with you though on the Saturday game, right? So Ryan Presley blows a 3-run lead in the bottom of the 9th. Well, that happens every once in a while to even the best closers, and Ryan Presley is among the best closers. He had not allowed a hit in his previous 11 appearances. Not concerned about that. Brian Abreu gave up a 3-run home run trying to clean up a mess from Ryan Stanek. Yeah, not good. But again, he just got in the right sort of situation. I saw lots of things about, Dusty should have done this or Dusty should have done that. And I feel a lot of Dusty's choices on Saturday were damned if you do, damned if you don't.
You give up a 13-run lead. I almost feel like you blame the manager for a 1-run loss. I don't know that you blame the manager for blowing. I know it was still 1 run, but
yeah,
when you score 12, you expect to win the game. A lot has to go wrong to not.
Yeah, and you have your best pitcher, so it's not, it's not like, I mean, they should have been able to do that. On the other hand, they were able to again come back from the 7-3 deficit late on Sunday against the Angels, and that was a massive mood shift that it really sort of, you could almost see palpable of the Bregman home run.
Right.
This is a disaster. This is terrible. This is this is a really good team. And among the really good team is, Bregman had the home run. The two real stars of the game, though, were Cal Tucker, who had the big insurance, needed to have that home run, and then the catch. And I returned the punch bowl to say, I don't think he had a good jump on that.
Yeah. What I do think he must have been reading your Substack and was like, I better make this catch. Otherwise, Brian's got more words for me.
I appreciate that. I keep identifying a defensive slump there, and he's coming out of it some here. But the other hero, the guy who hit 2 home runs and was the American League Player of the Week, which is, not the most august honor. He now joins like luminaries like Tyler White.
I forgot about Tyler White.
Some people reminded me of that on Twitter yesterday. So shout out to I think it was Tyler Stafford who did that. So is Chas McCormick. Hey, James, have you noticed? There's 2 things I've noticed about Chas McCormick. 1, he's an everyday player, and 2, the dialogue has not shifted to noting he's an everyday player. He's played in each of the last 7 games and in 11 of the last 12.
I think it's because he's sometimes playing different positions that people get up. They somehow think that, first of all, how's that not anything but a positive? Yeah. The man can play center and he can play all the corner outfield spots. Like, he's playing every day. I know that we used to joke on the show, and I think it was accurate when we were joking at the beginning of the season that he would have a game where he'd go off and then he would sit for 4 days. Well, that's not happening anymore. I do think, look, it's so funny because we had a really a fun follower of our show had messaged me about having this topic on the show last week about, does Dusty hate Chaz? And is Chandler Rome starting some shit by saying that Dusty hates Chaz? We don't know what's going on. Chaz might be that kind of guy that doesn't look good in warmups and doesn't look good in practice and seems to make things happen when the game matters. We all watch the World Series. Chaz is an everyday player. I don't think Chaz is the trade bait, which is, I'm sure, is now you've seen what Astros Twitter seems to believe is that Dusty's only playing him now so he can trade him to get rid of him. It's like as the orbit turns out there. It's a whole thing. I'm a big Chaz guy. I like seeing him do this, but I think also too, I saw an excellent point brought up by maybe San Antonio Tim, if I remember, that said, the debate right now isn't Yanni or Maldonado. It's Maldonado or Myers because of the way things are working out. But no, Chaz is an everyday player, man. And I think that just because he plays multiple positions does not mean he's not an everyday player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Dusty's putting in the lineup every day. And really, he's choosing between Corey Julks and Jake Myers. And when he plays Jake Myers, Jake's elite skill is defense. He is one of the handful of best defensive center fielders in the game. Every bit of numbers we have bear that out. Corey Julks is not, he's not a negative defensive player, but gives you more offense. And he's made a clear improvement. I still have some skepticism if it's just a hot streak or it's something more permanent. But, one of the things I've come to conclusion of, particularly I wrote something last week on Substack about all 3 of them, is that because you're getting contributions from all 3 guys, you can really put, at the trade deadline, Dana Brown kept talking about getting a left-handed bat. Yeah, that would be nice and that would be ideal, but they've got other priorities. And Dana Brown's talked about recognizing that in the rotation. We'll talk about that.
They have other priorities, and they also have internal fixes for, right now. And look, I know that we've fallen on this show in particular. I think Andy makes fun of me for how excited I get because someone's close to coming back who never comes back. But all signs point to getting Jordan and Altuve back. Well, what two bigger trade deadline additions can you make from that? Because I also don't think we can look at Abreu as a liability anymore. His numbers are still bad, but that was from an abysmal first 2 to 3 months of the season. He's played quite well in the last month.
Yeah. Yeah, and the offense has, despite Jordan going out, the offense has been really good over the last 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's from Abreu picking it up. That's from Chaz improving. That's from Corey Julks improving. One more thing I want to say about Chaz here in this context is there has been, and this is predominantly because of the change in general manager and the focus on sort of scouting and rebuilding the farm system that's been a heavy discussion around Dana Brown. There's been a lot of sort of talk about player development and the need for the farm system. Well, a good argument that they're doing pretty good in player development is Chas McCormick, who was a 21st, 22nd round draft pick. And
I thought 28. You're probably right.
From a Division II school. And they developed him not into he's an excellent corner outfielder, and he's pretty good. He's stretched a little, but he's pretty good in center field. And he has hit all 3 seasons in the major leagues better than an average player having his best offensive season this year. It's a really good sign of their player development that they were able to take essentially nobody and turn him into a quality major league player. Now, that doesn't mean they don't need to, we can talk about the trade deadline here in a minute. Hey, the fact that others don't think their farm system's that good is a hindrance to their ability to acquire, particularly starting pitching. But that they brought Chaz, that they have lots of really good young players is, a big reason why they won the World Series last year. It's a big reason why, despite everything that's gone wrong this year, they are in, they're in playoff position, which, reading comments for the first 8 innings of the Angels game on Sunday, I don't think a lot of Astros fans know, but they're actually, I think now 2.5 up on the Yankees, and a game and a half up on the Reds. The Red Sox are ahead of the Yankees at the moment.
I'm not a sunshine pumper, or I'm not trying to be, but there's even the argument that getting in with that last wild card spot is an easier path to the ALCS, but we'll get to that in October, because I'm one that does think winning the division matters. I think baseball, the playoffs of the crapshoot means you got to be rewarded for what you do over 162, and that's the division.
And even if you look just at the playoffs, hey, winning the AL West gets you a bye to the second round, and that's one less set of coin flips you have to go through.
Right, yeah.
And that's value in and of itself.
Every time you bring up the coin flick, I think of that scene in Friday Night Lights when they're trying to decide to go to the playoffs, and Billy Bob Thornton, and whether it's a Buffalo. Anyway, no, it's funny. I think a lot of Astros fans get bogged down in the system rankings because they watch the national stories and they're devoted to 3 sentences to them. Like we've seen it happen since the pandemic season, where for some reason they thought a couple of single A pitchers were the right choices to bring up to replace McCullers and Verlander and this and that. And I think we saw this with Pena last year. They are really good at developing players. And what it's got me excited about the future as this sort of window moves on and changes some is having a GM that's really good at the draft to now see what they can do with developing arguably better talent. I think if for some reason the Astros don't make the playoffs, or if there's an early exit, there's going to be a lot of damage control in this fan base. When, as I've said over and over and over again, the Giants were the team of the 2010s, and they won 3 World Series, and I don't think made the playoffs any other year. So there's a lot of ways to keep this thing going, and I'm excited. I'm still very excited for the future, just based on what they've been able to do with Garcia and Pena and Chaz and all these guys that were really, really overlooked, that have become, like you said, above replacement level players.
Yeah, I mean, there's bigger questions after 2024, or because a bunch of contracts come due, but in the middle of 2023 and then a playoff chase in 2023, I'm just going to mention that, and we got plenty of off season to talk about what to do after 2024. Let's talk about what they should do in 2023. The trade deadline is August 1st. when we were kids, the trade deadline used to be June 15th, and I just find that nuts. But anyway,
I did too. It was more fun back then too. I don't know. It seems in the expanded. We could talk about the expanded playoffs make it less fun because it's a whole.
One of the expanded playoffs does is puts more teams in the race. Adding to that is the fact that both Central divisions this year are terrible. I think the Twins are 500 and are leading the American League Central. Mm-hmm. They would be in 6th in the AL East, but hey, not there. I'm serious. Yankees are in last in the AL East and would be first in the AL Central. Such is life. Dana Brown was initially talking about needing a left-handed bat. He's moved towards the rotation as the key place to add. I agree with him. I think that's pretty obvious. Your thoughts on, do they prioritize the rotation, and do they need to get multiple guys for the rotation?
Yeah. So look, I mean, obviously you're going to have, again, you'll have the best left-handed bat available to you back in a few weeks in Yordan Alvarez. So there's your left-handed bat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I went from just thinking the Astros needed an innings eater to, and I'm still believing him. And honestly, he had a good start. Like at the end of the day, Javier had a good start. It didn't start great.
It's a start you can build on. People are sort of saying, people are asking the question, is Javier broken? And I look at that start and go, no, he's not broken. He's got things he needs to improve and fix.
Yeah.
That was encouraging compared to the other starts. I cut you off. Continue.
No, but you're exactly right. And I mean, I think he went 5. He gave up 2 or 3, and probably could have gone a 6th. I mean, we don't know. I think his pitch count was but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I do think that you have to address that as a concern. And so I do think you need 2 starting pitchers. And I think you need to, if you can nail as much of a frontline guy as you can get, because I do think now you have to start looking at not just a guy to eat innings to get to the playoffs, but maybe a guy that's actually going to pitch in the playoffs. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know who, there are names that I've seen floated that make sense, but it all depends on things like, will the Mets become drastic sellers and that kind of thing. But I think either a frontline starter and a high leverage reliever or 2 starters.
Yeah. I mean, one way to think about it is if the playoffs started today, Framber Valdez, Cy Young candidate, would start game 1. Starting game 2 would be probably Javier
Brown.
Hunter version of Javier, and then Hunter Brown, which of course, if you look back at the offseason, right, your anticipation was that Lance McCullers and Luis Garcia would be one of your top 4 starters. And right now, if you got to start 4 guys in the playoffs, JP France would be one of them. And I greatly appreciate JP France's contributions to this team.
Right.
You got a victory on Bastille Day, so vive la France, liberty, equality, strikeouts. But JP France in a playoff game, I mean, this team did win with Luis Garcia as a rookie in a playoff game, but he only went 2 innings. They're going to have to do something like that.
Yeah.
So one thing is, hey, they just need another guy who can start a playoff game.
Yeah. Although I would say too, though, again, to calm people down, is it feels like the Astros rotation feels like every other rotation now. Like this is everybody's problem.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's a huge deficit to the Astros. It's just not the strength all of us on this show thought it would be going into the season.
Yeah. And last year we were sitting here going like, we've got enough starters. We can trade one out for a bullpen arm, and really one of our better starters is probably just sitting at AAA, wasting his, just waiting for his moment. And that, right. This year, it's how the other half, and really not the other half, but the other 80% of baseball lives, right? Which presents a difficulty at the trade deadline, which is what team needs another starting pitcher? All of them.
Yeah.
And it makes it harder to get that starting pitcher. The good news for the Astros is their farm system is better off today than it was a year ago at this point. They have 2 first-round picks over the last couple of years in their system. But on a more objective measure, Fangraphs last year had them based on their very formulaic, numeric system. I think they had them 26 last year, and they have them 21st today. So that's objectively better, right? Yeah, there we go, right? Right. On the other hand, right, 21st isn't that good. A lot of that is on Drew Gilbert, who don't need to, is probably someone you'd like to keep.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about that. I hate to interrupt, but Luno
Sure.
was famous when he was here of pretty much announcing this guy was untouchable, that guy was untouchable.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of two players. Obviously, Tucker was the right choice and Whitley maybe not. Does Dana Brown go into this trade deadline thinking someone's automatically untouchable, or does he look at the idea that you could win a World Series if you give up a Gilbert for, say, Shohei Ohtani? And not that it would be that, but as an example.
Yeah. Well, I think the way to think about it, right, is that every player has a value and every player you want to get has a price. And so, hey, Drew Gilbert has a much greater value. He's a top 100 prospect, and he's gotten in a year to Double-A. He hasn't done great at Double-A, but you have reason to think that he will sort of conquer that level. And
he's also fighting little mini injuries throughout that. So
yeah, so he's more valuable than most of than most of the rentals on the market. Tigers have a couple guys who I think could be intriguing, Michael Lorenzen and Eduardo Rodriguez. But don't trade Drew Gilbert for those guys. They're just going to be here for a year. They're just going to be here for a couple months. Right. You can trade guys further down in the system for somebody like that. So, yeah, if you want to go for someone big, but here's the thing about someone big, like I see the name from Astros fans, Dylan Cease a lot. Okay? And I've seen Luis Robert as well, because you get an extra outfielder. You solve your center field problem. You put a center fielder in, you solve your left field problem. Anyway, the problem with both of those guys, right, is the White Sox, they may not be having a good season, may be out of it, but they're like, we're in a terrible division and we have some high-level talent. We can win this next year if we make the right moves in the offseason for the first time in several offseasons. They're not really incentivized to trade those guys unless they get a package that blows them away.
Sure.
The Astros can't really blow them away, particularly with sort of young guys, or if they do, it would be like, hey, Jeremy Pena would be very valuable around the league, but, I don't see the Astros trading, one of their young stars for particularly sort of a couple years as pitcher. So, they're limited in their options, particularly when it comes to sort of big moves. So it is, to me, the parallel to this is 2021. They needed to get bullpen arms in 2021.
Yeah.
The difference is they have to, I'm doing air quotes here for our listeners because, that's real helpful on a podcast, but they have to, okay. They don't, life will go on, right? There's nothing, it's imperative, but they have a clear need. They need to do it. It's just harder to do. So it's a bigger dilemma for Dana Brown this year, how to sort of solve this Rubik's Cube than it was for James Click in 2021, where it is, I just need to find some relievers. And, he got very creative, right? And traded his center fielder for one of them and a really promising catcher. So that part's worked out. He, got a setup man, got a couple setup men who were helpful in the playoffs in Kendall Graveman and Yimi Garcia. And we regret one of those deals and don't regret the other one. So it's a tougher thing, but it's mostly you should be able to figure this out.
Yeah.
Even if there's even if everyone else is going after stuff.
Yeah, it seems like you can figure it out. One of the things that will be interesting to watch Dana Brown work is I felt like Luno and Click were really good about finding diamonds in the rough for players that were overlooked that ended up maybe playing a little above their ceiling. So we'll see. And the other thing too for Astros fans, where the Astros lack in farm system, they make up for in money. And so there's opportunities for the Astros getting the guy they want if they also agree to take on a salary for someone. I mean, there's many ways to figure this out. And I still think we should feel confident knowing that, again, we have Altuve and Yordan coming back. That offense looks a lot better, but also potentially being one or two mid-level players away from being right back up front. And if only the Tampa Bay Rays could close a game down, we would be talking a little differently.
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers have not lost a game since the All-Star break, which won't last. But doesn't mean I wasn't saying things in my living room when I saw that wild pitch yesterday.
Yeah.
I was also watching the Rays broadcast, so I could tell what they wanted to say when that happened. rather than what they actually could say via FCC. So before we violate FCC regulations, which, well, do not apply to the internet, but still do that, or before James's hotel internet proves to be hotel internet.
That's right. If Andy's is contagious.
Yeah. So good news for the Astros this week. They play two teams that aren't very good, Colorado and Oakland. So a chance to win some ball games, hopefully. And hopefully the Rangers won't win them all and make up some ground on the Rangers. And certainly for the hitters, a chance to hit in thin air. And who doesn't like that? And I know lots of Astros. I know several Astros fans who are going to Colorado. It's always a big Astros crowd there. So will be we'll be more orange than purple possibly in the stands tonight.
Yeah, beautiful ballpark. Way to get out of this Texas heat. I think, before I sign off, to me, I still feel supremely confident in the Astros' ability to catch the Rangers. The fact is they played each other 7 times heads up, and the Astros have won 4 of them. And I think there's zero reason to panic about any of this, because it's still, like as you pointed out, they are a very good baseball team.
Very good baseball team with lots of players. And the thought I'll leave everyone on today: if the season ended today, 1, it'd be a big surprise to everybody, and 2, the Astros would be in the playoffs. So with everything that's gone wrong, they'd still be in the playoffs today, but a lot more can go right the rest of the season. Fingers crossed. Go Astros.
Go Astros.